6 months. We're coming up on 6 months here. So I'm just testing this out to see if live streaming can work up here, to see if the signal is good enough, to see if this app will work. Shoot me a comment or something if you are able to see this live stream. If the connection's good, let me know. If the sound is good, got any issues, let me know. We are currently coming to you from the location of the open pit mine. So the land that I'm sitting on right now could be turned into a almost 400 feet deep open pit mine within the next year or so. This proposed lithium mine here at Thacker Pass would be a massive project. Hopefully you can see behind me. We're here in the sagebrush country. This is Sagebrush Steppe. It's a place where there are no trees, as you can probably see. Sagebrush, different types of shrubs, bushes, native grasses, forbs, wildflowers. It's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly biodiverse and lush. I was just walking up on the mountain up here a few minutes ago, and we saw the red-tailed hawks who've been nesting up there. We saw the doves. We saw all kinds of different songbirds. A jackrabbit came out and said hello to us right over here. This is really important wildlife habitat. It's a very important place ecologically, just like many places. Just like many places are important ecologically. But I want to help people understand what's at stake here. This entire land behind me, this mining company, Lithium Nevada, it's a subsidiary of a Canadian mining company, Lithium Americas. This corporation is a multinational corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And they're hoping to come up here and blow up this entire place in order to extract lithium, in order to make billions of dollars in profits. They will talk about this being a green mine. They will talk about lithium and electric vehicles saving the world, saving the planet, stopping global warming. They're wrong. They're lying. They're misleading us. This entire landscape would be blown up, as I said, for this mine. And if you want to talk about global warming, let's talk about a few different things. One, this project would directly release over 150,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent every single year. So over 40 to 100 years of operation, you're talking about millions upon millions of tons of greenhouse gas emissions. Secondly, even after the lithium gets out of here, producing an electric car releases about 9 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That might be lower depending on the energy source that's used to power up those batteries. That's probably going to be lower carbon emissions than an internal combustion engine car, than a gasoline car. But the thing is, it's not lower by enough. It's not enough to get us close to what the climate scientists are telling us we need to do in order to actually substantially address global warming. They're telling us that we need 80 to 100% cuts in greenhouse gas emissions. Transitioning to electric vehicles will maybe get us 6%, according to the Center for Interdisciplinary Environmental Justice. 6%. It's not much. And the cost of that will actually be very large because many places like this will have to be destroyed. That's not new. That's the same pattern of destructiveness that we've seen with the fossil fuel industry, with the mining industry for many years, with all kinds of extractive industries. The mining industry is one of the most destructive on the planet. They release huge amounts of toxic waste, poisoned huge amounts of water, destroy huge amounts of land. And if you're talking about the biodiversity crisis, most of the species extinctions that we're seeing around the world are because of habitat destruction. They're because of places like this getting bulldozed, getting turned into mines, oil and gas development, suburban sprawl, new agricultural development, logging, habitat destruction, right? Nothing to do with global warming. Only a small number of species for now actually are being driven extinct by global warming. And that might change in the future. That might change in the future because global warming is an incredibly serious problem and it's getting worse rapidly. But we have to recognize that we can't solve global warming by destroying the planet more, just in a different way. That's not going to work. The global warming crisis is a symptom of our broken relationship to the natural world, to this planet. So if you're just tuning in, I'm testing out this new live streaming thing. Let me know, shoot me a comment if you can see me, if the sound quality is good, if you're having any issues. Let me know. Let me know if it's coming through clear. I haven't tested out a live stream up here on the mountainside before, so it's a pretty remote location out here. We're about 20 miles from the nearest town. So I've got a line of sight to, there's some sort of cell tower over here to the east of me. So I have a decent connection depending on where I'm at, but it fluctuates up and down. So let me know if you're able to see this, if the connection's all right and so forth. I appreciate folks tuning in, and I'll provide a few updates for the campaign, what's going on out here, what the latest news is at Thacker Pass. There's a lot going on. As always, there's a lot going on. We've got a lot of work to do to try and stop this mine. We're in a better place now than oh, there we go. I think somebody said I was a little quiet. I think my hand might have been over the mic a little bit here. Hopefully that's a little better. So there's a lot that goes into trying to fight a project like this. We've been writing, we've been doing interviews, making videos, like this, doing a lot of that type of basic media outreach. Hey, what's up, Ja? I think that's who that is. I'm not sure if that's you. Solidarity to the archipelago as well from here. I just see your name on here as anonymous Facebook user. So yeah, solidarity to you as well. Glad folks are tuning in and able to watch. There's a lot of work that goes into a campaign like this, a lot of different moving parts, a lot of complexities. It's not just as simple. That basic media work that I talked about, that's part of it, right? But we need to back that up with action. That's why we've had this camp right behind me here set up for 6 months. That's why we have been engaging in all kinds of different tactics. We've been doing pressure campaigns. We've been contacting the government. We've been attending the public meetings. And we've been building alliances with as many people as possible to create public pressure around this issue, to let people know that this is not okay, to create a moral situation where people have to choose one side or the other, to make it clear that destroying this place is not good for the planet, that it is immoral, it is wrong. That's a storytelling task, but it's also an organizing task. Because the more people we can tell this story to, the more we can bring on board and get them be part of this campaign, get them involved and engaged. And from there, we have to put those people into action. So we're hoping more people will keep coming out to camp. We've had people coming and going, visiting for long periods, short periods, spending time out here connecting to this place, actually seeing what's at stake and what's going on out here with their own eyes. So it's not just a mental, intellectual thing, but they're actually connecting to the land physically. We're going on a walk and they're going to stay behind, like these two women did who are just walking down from the mountain over here on the other side of me. We walked up this mountain up here. I'll show you. We walked up that ridge over there and they stayed behind. They stayed behind when we decided to walk down because they wanted to get that silence. They wanted to feel that feeling of being alone out here, of being, with the wildness, with the land. And that's powerful. That'll change you. That'll change you. And that's what we need. We need people's hearts to be changed. We need people's spirits to be changed in order to address the crisis that we're facing, in order to find the courage that we need, the motivation, the determination, the work ethic, the relentlessness to keep going and keep fighting and get better and more effective all the time. Because it's not just this project. There's new mines going in all over the world, new pipelines, new suburban sprawl, new logging. There's a lot of issues that need to get addressed. And that's our work to do as a generation. That's our work to do. we're living in this era where, in the 40s and 50s, the boom times, you had this sort of consumerism sweeping across the United States and then spreading around the world. Since then, that consumerism has been deeply inculcated in our societies, but it's also started to run up against some material limits. We've started to see these economic crises grow larger and larger. We've started to see more and more homelessness, more and more debt, more and more people living in desperation from medical bills and different things, right? The ability of the capitalist system to provide for people is is decreasing, and that's because of, among many other reasons, but one of the largest ones is ecological collapse. It's because of overshoot. It's because there's simply not enough. And now we're in this situation where my generation and the people younger than me, we're not going to have a consumeristic future. It's not going to be that way. If we want to have any future at all, we're going to be living with a lot less than previous generations. At least those of us who, like me, come from a relatively privileged background, right? Growing up white and male in the United States of America, that's privilege for a lot of people. It's not to say everyone. There are a lot of white people. There are a lot of males who have grown up in some really bad situations for different reasons. But in general, a lot of us have privilege. All of us have privilege for one reason or the other. But the future is going to be different. We're going to be living more simply, if we're going to be living at all. We're going to be living closer to the land and consuming less and living with a lot less energy, maybe none. So what's up? Somebody else is watching from Big Sky Country. How's it going? Not too far away up in that direction. Beautiful up there. Beautiful up there in Montana. Glad folks are tuning in. If you are just tuning in, I am live from Thacker Pass right now, testing out this new live streaming setup, testing out the signal up here, seeing how's it going. Right behind my shoulder here is the Protect Thacker Pass camp. This is actually the upper camp. There's a lower camp slightly down below in this direction. And everything that you can see behind me is the site of the proposed lithium mine. So this whole area is under threat. This whole thing will be destroyed. I've been sharing some basic updates, but just so folks know more concretely what's coming up. This Wednesday on July 7th, we are having a rally in Carson City, which is the capital city of the state of Nevada, at the headquarters of a company called Far Western Anthropological Services. Far Western is the company that has been hired by Lithium Americas to come in and dig up all the cultural and archaeological sites here in Thacker Pass. There are over 1,000 cultural sites here because the Northern Paiute, Western Shoshone people, the indigenous people of this region, have been living here for thousands of years at least, if not longer. And I got a comment here. Thanks for the question. I'll answer that one in a second here. They've been living here for a long time. So there's a lot of deep history here for the indigenous people. And it's not like that's unimportant. This is a sacred site to the indigenous people of this area. The elders tell us all these stories of people coming back in these hills and going hunting for the first time, getting their first deer. It's a very important thing in the culture. They give away their whole first deer. If you have a successful hunt, you give it all away. Hey, see you later. I'm not getting your name on here. Facebook users' names aren't coming through for me for some reason, but whoever that is, I'll see you in a bit. You give it all away, right? That's a culture which is encouraging reciprocity. It's encouraging sharing. That's the opposite of the dominant culture, which encourages hoarding and stealing and theft and, getting wealthy through that process. That's what's encouraged in the mainstream culture, is the opposite of sharing. It's the opposite of the basic ethics that we're taught in kindergarten: to be nice to each other, to take care of each other, to share, right? It's not complicated. So there's a long, long history of people having a relationship with this place. And it's actually a massacre site too. So the BLM, the government, says that there are no human remains here. They say that there are no sacred sites here. That's what's in the final environmental impact statement for this proposed mine. It says there are no sacred sites here. It says there are no graves or human remains here. The elders tell us both of those things are wrong, dead wrong. And I believe them over the BLM because BLM has not been here very long. They do not know what's going on around here like the original inhabitants of this land know, right? They are children in comparison, both in terms of wisdom and just that knowledge of what's happened here. Yeah, it drives me crazy. So that's one of the big things, that rally coming up on the 7th in Carson City. We're going to put pressure on this archaeological company because the indigenous folks, the allies, people of Red Mountain are telling us that digging up those cultural sites and potentially remains here would be desecration of this place. And we need to stop that. We need to fight. We need to stand in solidarity against that. You know, everyone in Canada at least, and I think a lot of people in the US too have been following this whole boarding school situation with it looks like probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands of kids who died, who were killed really in the boarding school system. It's genocide. That's a program of genocide. And we see that against indigenous people, going back hundreds of years to the present, to right now. It's continuing. And one of the parts of the definition of genocide is the intentional destruction of a culture, right? Not just killing people. Killing people is one of the more obvious kinds of genocide, but even just taking people's kids away, that's considered genocide because you're destroying the continuity between generations. You're destroying a culture, you're destroying a people. And that's what is going to happen here at Thacker Pass is the continuation of that cultural genocide. It's destroying the land that people still rely on to come out here and gather medicines, plant medicines, and first foods and come up here to hunt with their kids, right? As they have been doing for thousands of years. You take that away, that's the definition of genocide. That's why people have been saying this is a racist mine. So if you're in the area, join us on the 7th in Carson City for that rally. We are going to, hey, what's up, Sandy? How you doing? Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. It looks like Ray. How's it going? Nice to see you. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're going to this rally on the 7th, because we need to tell these archaeologists that's not okay. We're not going to allow you to do this. We're not going to allow you to do this. So hopefully folks can show up for that. There's going to be songs, there's going to be prayers, drumming. It's probably going to be hot, so bring some cold water, cold drink, something like that, a good sun hat. So the next big event that we've got coming up, I think there's a direct action training scheduled online for something like the 16th. I don't have the exact date for that off the top of my head, so maybe somebody can drop the link. The 21st, we have a rally in Reno. The 21st is another big date. That's a hearing at the federal courthouse in Reno about Thacker Pass. So 4 environmental groups that are suing to protect this place have filed to ask for an injunction, which would put a temporary halt to the early destruction activities, the sort of pre-construction activities that the mining company wants to do, including that archaeological looting, let's call it what it is, it's looting. They've filed for an injunction to ask the federal court to halt that, right, to allow time for the actual lawsuit to be heard. We don't feel super optimistic. I don't feel super optimistic. I don't know what the enviro groups think. I haven't talked to them about it, but I don't feel super optimistic about that injunction succeeding, which means that the 29th could be the date that they come in and try and start bulldozing this place, the 29th or soon afterwards. So we need people to be on call, ready to go. We need people to be watching, paying attention to what's happening out here, ready to come out and be part of any actions, any gatherings, and so on. But the 21st in the morning, I believe we're gathering at 8 a.m. maybe. I'm not sure on that time, but you can check it out on the Protect Thacker Pass Facebook page. A rally July 21st outside the federal courthouse in Reno. We're gathering there just to show the strength of the opposition, to show how much this matters to people, to show journalists, uh, everyone who's involved in that case, that we need to protect this place. That there's a lot of power behind this movement, and people need to get on board with what's really going on here. So I got a question a little bit ago. Crypto guys, I think on YouTube said, "What are your thoughts on the people that are unable to comprehend that our species is overpopulated?" I'm personally not having kids. It's a good question. It's a hard question in some ways because you start to talk about population and you have to deal with the real nasty history of some racist, whack ass people who started to talk about overpopulation and did it in a very racist way, right? And started to talk about, some very racist ideas and some eugenics and different things, some kind of nasty stuff. Um, that to me does not change the fact that we are in a state of overshoot, ecologically speaking. Um, we are overpopulated as a species. There are simply too many human beings. Now, that said, I think that's kind of a secondary issue because Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they have more impact as one individual person, more destruction to this planet than, probably millions of other people, millions of poor people, right? Who don't consume much, who are just living small scale lives, not flying all over the planet, not, cruising around in their yachts. So we can never talk about population without also talking about consumption, without also talking about class, right? Without also talking about colonialism and the difference in impact between somebody living in India, somebody living in India, for example, who might be living in a rural area and doing mostly subsistence agriculture, and somebody living in a high rise in New York City in a penthouse apartment, right, working on Wall Street. So we need to think about this, but we also need to recognize that we are simply overpopulated. There are too many human beings on the planet, and frankly, I've decided not to have kids too. If I want to have kids, I'm gonna probably adopt if I ever get to that point. And that's not to say, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody who has kids because I understand that's a very personal decision. Um, it's not really something that I'm going to look down on somebody for. I'm not going to get in a fight with you. I'm not going to say you're a bad person for having kids. I would never do that. I got two nephews. My sister has kids. I love them. I love her. It's it's part of what makes us human. Obviously, having a family, raising kids, right? It's very close to our hearts. So we can't be callous about how we talk about this. We have to be human. We have to be real. We have to be straight up. And, you know, the thing is, that one of the reasons I'm a feminist is because of overpopulation. The best way to address overpopulation is by um, educating women and empowering women, right? That's one of the best ways. If you look at the statistics, to change the situation with overpopulation is to make sure that women have control over their bodies, over their lives. They're not poor and super dependent on a man all the time, right? Um, when women have a relatively good life and can make decisions for themselves and have power over their own lives, on average, they tend to have between 1 and 2 kids. And that's a trend that you see around the world. There are a lot of countries where population growth is actually leveled out or it's negative, which is what we need to get to. And that doesn't mean they're killing people. That just means they're having few enough babies as a whole society that, more people are dying than are being born. And that's how you fix overpopulation in a humane way is you empower women and you talk about these issues openly and you talk about family planning and so on. They did it in Iran. They did it in a religious theocracy where the birth rate used to be more than 7 children per woman, and they got it down to pretty much a replacement level. And they did that in a very religious fundamentalist, very far right wing context. uh, and they did it using education, using humane methods, right? So these problems are solvable. They're definitely solvable. That doesn't mean they're easy, but I think that's a good question. So I think I got a couple more questions here. Let's see. Um, all right, I have a question. Anonymous Facebook user. I don't know who put this in, but Should we be discussing a divestment strategy to ask people to shift their Wall Street investments away from lithium products? It's a good question. Uh, we actually have been doing some investor pressure work from here at Thacker Pass or Peehee. If you have any experience with divestment work, with financial pressure campaigns, I encourage you to reach out to us and get in touch about helping with that. That's something that we're continuing to do. We have a couple strategies. We got a couple cards that I'm not going to lay out on the table for everybody right now, but we got it because I'm sure my opponents are watching this too. Uh, so I'm not going to lay out all my cards on the table, but I'm sure we got a couple cards that we're ready to play, um, that are along those lines. And you know, the thing is, I think it can be an important strategy in the context of one campaign like this, but I think it's also important to recognize that divestment alone, my feet got to move. It's important to recognize that divestment alone is not going to save the world, at least not in my opinion, because what you're seeing with the divestment movement is, one, a lot of the money that got taken out of fossil fuels got put into things like lithium because those investors still want to make money. And they were being told that lithium was good for the planet and that it was going to save the world. So, for one, we can't have shallow, simple analysis like that. The money that is generated in this global capitalist economy is pretty much all made, the vast majority of it. I don't know what the number is. I would just throw out a random number. Let's say 95% of the money that's made in this global industrial economy is made by destroying the planet in one way or another, right? And as a very simple example, let's say I own some land, quote unquote, own some land that has a forest on it. If I cut down that forest and sell the timber, I can make money. If I keep that forest standing and don't sell any of the trees, then I don't make money off of it, right? So, very simply, most of the money on the planet comes in one way or another from destroying the planet. Whether you're investing in, factories or lithium extraction or logging or whatever it is. I mean, this global industrial economy is very destructive. So, I think we just need to recognize that it's not going to be as simple as moving money around, although I think that can be helpful in some ways, in some contexts. The other thing that I think is important to recognize is that sometimes, like with the fossil fuel divestment campaigns, one of the reasons that they haven't been that effective economically speaking, you could say they've been effective sort of politically and socially because they're creating pressure, they're changing culture, they're changing norms, and so on. But economically speaking, in terms of actually taking money away from the fossil fuel industry, um, they haven't been that effective because there are a lot of unscrupulous investors out there who don't really care about what they're investing in, right? They just want to make the most money they can. So if you get a bunch of people to sell a certain stock that's still making money, like oil industry stocks are, that might just artificially depress the price and make it even more profitable for those unscrupulous investors to put their money in there, right? So I think we just got to be careful with the divestment strategy, is all I'm saying. Sandy was asking about overshoot, talking about, yeah, it's beautiful out here, isn't it? It's a beautiful day. Thacker Pass, it's fluctuated between about 70 degrees and probably 100 today, because we got these clouds coming through. And oh, it's Toma here. Nice. I can actually highlight your comment. There we go. So yeah, Toma's saying, yeah, I think that's true. I think we should encourage people to move their money, and I think that it's reflective of the fact that our whole economic system is busted. That it's all based on destroying the land. But we could economy that wasn't based on that. We could say, we're going to value carbon sequestration. And if you sequester a ton of carbon, then you get whatever, you get a carbon coin. This is something um, that was talked about in the recent book, The Ministry for the Future, Kim Stanley Robinson. Fascinating book. I recommend folks check that out if you're into reading. It's a climate fiction novel, and he kind of speculates about this idea of how would you shift the global economic system to incentivize protecting the land, rather than destroying it. All right, y'all got to check out this view up here, these clouds and everything. Pretty spectacular. All right, so let's see. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm just sort of testing out this live stream thing, so hopefully it's working all right. I've been on for half an hour, it looks like. Got a couple more questions coming in. Crypto Guys on YouTube asked, have you looked into the idea of converting your lawn into a permaculture food forest? Yeah, I have. I actually don't have a lawn. I live out in the country, and I have a meadow. I have a natural grass meadow, which is beautiful and is sequestering carbon and is got all these wildflowers. So I'm really lucky. I don't quote unquote own that land. I rent it. But it's beautiful, and we're doing some work there to try and sort of enhance biodiversity and help out the wildlife and the plants and so on. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's got to be part of small steps towards the solution. Is, you know, we need to go from lawns and that type of idea towards ecosystems, towards natural communities. Food forests, but depending on the ecology, based on whatever's the ecology of the area you're in. Because obviously it's going to be different if you're in Las Vegas versus Seattle versus, versus Mississippi or New York or Kathmandu, right? It's going to be very different. All right, somebody asked, I think I got another couple questions here coming in. Hey, Myron, how you doing? How's it going? Myron's out on the front lines of the Line 3 protests out in Ojibwe territory, the tar sands pipeline. I was actually just writing an article earlier today about the links between the Line 3 fight and the fight here at Thacker Pass, because Line 3, there's an old pipeline there that they're trying to rebuild and expand. And it's a tar sands pipeline, tar sands fuel from Alberta, crude oil. And that pipeline that it's pumping tar sands, this mine here would rely on sulfur coming from oil and gas refineries as the main chemical input for lithium mining, right? For so-called green electric cars. It would be bringing in, I think, about 600,000 tons of sulfur every year. That's basically the mass of 2 Empire State Buildings. So if you can imagine 2 Empire State Buildings coming in here, being directly imported from the oil and gas industry, that's what we're looking at. So, and the thing is, sulfur, tar sands fuels are highly rich in sulfur compared to most oil and gas. So a lot of that sulfur would be coming from the tar sands. So if that Line 3 pipeline gets built and it's going to those oil refineries up there in that region, there is a chance that that sulfur that's getting pumped through the Line 3 pipeline, if it gets built, could come from those oil refineries, get put on trains, and get sent right over here to Thacker Pass to be used to create electric vehicle batteries, right? That's BS. That's BS. That's greenwashing. Got a couple raindrops coming down. All right, cool. It sounds like this is coming through pretty good for people. I think the connection is all right. My voice is getting a little tired. I don't have any water with me, so I'm probably going to cut out pretty soon here. But yeah, I appreciate folks tuning in. I appreciate folks. Let's see. I'm only getting anonymous Facebook users, so whoever just commented talking about this side of Nevada, I don't know who that is. For some reason, people's names aren't coming through on the Facebook comments because I'm streaming from this different app, testing it out. So I'm streaming to Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube right now. So I'm getting a feed of all the comments here, but Facebook names aren't coming through for some reason. It just says anonymous user. Yeah, the thing is, there are a lot of lithium mines in the works all across Nevada. There is a proposed mine here at Thacker Pass, or Peehee, as it's called in Paiute. There's a proposed mine just on the Oregon side of the border, outside of McDermott, in the Trout Creek Mountains. It's actually the north end of this mountain range here, the Montana Mountains. Then there's a proposed lithium mine east of here in northern Nevada, like east of the Duck Valley Reservation in northeast Nevada. Then you've got a proposed lithium mine at Rhyolite Ridge, which is a couple hours south of here. You've got proposed lithium mines in the Clayton Valley. You've got a lot of them. They're in a less than 2 year period between 2015 and 2016. There were more than 8,000 lithium mining claims filed in Nevada alone. So this really is a new gold rush. This really is a boom in this resource that we're seeing. Resource. You know, I call this a mountain. I call this earth, stone. I don't refer to it as a resource, but that's what they see it as. They see it as money to come and get. And, you know, if they have to blow up a sacred site, if they have to harm endangered and threatened species, if they have to poison the water to get it, they're going to. I mean, this is a mining company just like any other multinational corporation. They're interested in money and the bottom line. Myron's saying many protectors, indigenous water protectors, want to stand with us. That's awesome. We'll see a steady flow soon. That's cool. Myron, I think, is spreading the word a little bit up there at one of the camps, the Line 3 resistance camps. That's awesome. Yeah, some of the water protectors who have been out here to Thacker Pass have been spending time up at Line 3 as well, defending up there. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I threw out those dates. I'll throw them out one more time. July 7th, rally in Carson City against the looting of cultural sites. July, I think 17th, we got an online direct action training. July 21st, we've got a rally at the Reno Federal Courthouse to show our opposition to this project while there's a hearing inside the courthouse relating to this mine. The next weekend, the 24th and 25th, there will be a direct action training here at Thacker Pass. I hadn't mentioned that one yet, but if you want to come out for that, we've got a registration form. We just put that up on the Protect Thacker Pass page today. So check that out. I think it's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the website probably. And then the 29th, July 29th, is the earliest date right now that the company could come out here and start destroying this place. I got one more question coming in, so I'll hang on for a second, see what I can do. So I'm glad folks tuned in. It looks like this is working all right. A few hiccups to figure out in this live stream, but it's pretty amazing I'm able to do it from up here. I couldn't, honestly. I'd rather there was no infrastructure out here, because then maybe it would be less likely to be destroyed. But we're going to use the tools that we have available to us. Let's see. Somebody's asking me, what are your thoughts on the fantasies surrounding our species, such as magical thinking that Jesus will save us from climate change, etc.? You know, I don't like to knock people's religion. There are a lot of good people I know who are in those Abrahamic faiths. I think there's a lot of problems that have come out of those religions. I mean, you look at, again, to go back to the boarding schools that have been such a big issue lately. Brutal, genocidal. You know, that legacy, and there's still people doing missionary work in you know, indigenous colonies or indigenous territories, communities in the Amazon and other remote communities, Papua New Guinea, places like that. I think that is a crime when that's happening. I think that is a crime personally. You know, when I think about prayer, I think about Frederick Douglass. You know, Frederick Douglass, the great anti-slavery campaigner who was himself a slave. Frederick Douglass, in his writing, you know, he lived through the Civil War. He lived through the mid 1800s. Frederick Douglass said, "I prayed for many years to get free, but I never got free until I prayed with my feet." And I think you could look at that as either way. If you're an atheist, if you don't believe in religion, then he's telling you got to do the work. And if you do believe in prayer, then he's telling you got to do the work, right? Either way, prayer is action. That's the way I look at it. Hey, thanks for it. Thanks for the comment there. I don't know if that's Uncle Rudy. Appreciate it. Oh, somehow I turned around my camera there. Yeah, I think that's one of Will's friends, Uncle Rudy. I believe, I can't see your name on here, so I don't know if that's you, but one of the guys who Will was out on Mauna Kea with, helping to defend the sacred land out there, the sacred Mauna Kea from, the scientific project, those big telescopes they're trying to put up there, 30-meter telescope. That fight's still going on too. It's this attitude. It's the same attitude, whether you're talking about Line 3 and an oil pipeline, whether you're talking about Thacker Pass and a lithium mine, whether you're talking about Mauna Kea and a telescope, a scientific telescope being put in by universities. It's this mindset of, we want what is there. We want that location. We want those minerals. We want that oil. And nothing's going to get in our way. And if we have to destroy the land, if we have to bulldoze, if we have to poison, if we have to destroy sacred sites, we'll do it. That's the mindset of the dominant culture, of many people in this culture. And, the thing is, it's not even about the individuals, because, they're important, but, if the CEO of Lithium Americas, Jonathan Evans, if he had a change of heart tomorrow and said, you know what, between the impacts on the water, wildlife, indigenous communities, sacred sites, and the local communities, I just don't want to do this. This isn't right. We should not do this. He will be fired and replaced by somebody who will go forward with the project, right? So that's why I think we need to understand that these are systemic issues. These are issues of the structure of our economy and our culture and the way we live. They're not just about a few individuals making bad decisions. And the solution similarly won't be about a few individuals making good decisions either. The solutions have to be systemic too. Because, Thacker Pass, I mentioned all those other proposed lithium mines in Nevada. Thacker Pass is just one place that's at risk. It's just one place among many. And there are a lot of atrocities. There are a lot of battles being waged, wars being waged against our planet right now, against the future generations. It's up to us to defend the land, to defend the water, to stand up for those future generations. We got to do that. That's our work. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of change. Because, as we see with this lithium issue, it's not just about the pollution that's coming out of the tailpipe. It's not just about that. It's about what goes into the car. And I'll break this to you. It's not just the lithium that's harmful in making a car. It's the steel, too. The biggest iron ore mine in the world is in the middle of what used to be the Amazon rainforest. And I say what used to be because they have a damn big clear cut right there to make that iron ore. They've got a lot of destruction. I'll crouch down again here. I heard the wind is drowning me out. A lot of destruction to make that iron ore mine, right? So, with a lot of these technological solutions, so-called solutions to the crisis we're facing, I don't think that's where it's at. I don't think that's where it's at, personally. I think that the evidence shows that technology is not going to save us from global warming. It's not going to save us from the ecological crisis that we're in. We need fundamental change in the way we live, and a woman, Nikki, was up here. She has a lot of experience with wild tending, with harvesting, and with planting wild gardens. The reality is, people think about places like this as being wild, completely natural, but humans always influence the land around us. And for thousands of years, we have been planting, we have been harvesting, we have been tending, pruning, selectively culling, breeding all kinds of species around us to create a world in which we can thrive and other creatures can thrive as well. So there are a lot of models for living sustainably, but I think a sustainable future is not going to look like Elon Musk's vision. It's not going to look like Jeff Bezos's world. It's not going to look like this high-tech world where we've all got devices constantly connected on the internet, driving around in electric cars. Um, I don't think that's what the future is going to look like. I think it is going to be much simpler, much more localized. Uh, I mean, simpler maybe isn't even the right term. Not simpler, more complex, because our lives are simple right now. You go to the grocery store, you go to work, and that's it. It's an assembly line. We live in an assembly line economy, an assembly line world. Cookie cutter, everything the same. You can go into the grocery store 2,000 miles away from here and find the exact same things grown in the exact same fields, and destroying the planet in the exact same ways. It's simplified. A couple of raindrops coming down. Somebody was right whenever they were talking about that. Nice rays up in the sky over here. Sun's getting low. Yeah, exactly. We're a monoculture, somebody said in the comments. We're a monoculture. We live in a monoculture. We live in a dead culture, really. I think it was, I don't know, I'm forgetting who it was. It might have been Eric Fromm, who, did a lot of writing about the philosophy of evil after World War II. And I think that's who I'm thinking of. But he talked about the banality of evil. And I lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was going to say. I'm getting tired. It's been a 47-minute live stream according to this. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody for now. Go get some dinner, get some food. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks for following the campaign, supporting what we're doing out here. If you want to learn more, follow Protect Thacker Pass on social media, protectthackerpass.org. Also, check out Protect Pahimaha. That's the Paiute name for this place. That's the Facebook page for People of Red Mountain. They are the group of traditionalists mostly from the Fort McDermott Paiute Shoshone Reservation, but also from Duck Valley and some of the surrounding communities. They are incredible people. They are really leading the way on this fight, and they are strong. Hearing the stories from the elders of the connection to this land, people who have been coming out to this place right here for 70 years, 80 years, and hearing stories from their grandparents um, about when this place was first colonized. About the Indian wars out here, about the cavalry, the U.S. cavalry chasing native people around down in this valley right down here. And, people hid in Thacker Pass to survive, to escape the cavalry. That's the history of this place. It's a really deep history. So, follow the people of Red Mountain. We're trying to lift up their voice as much as we can and work closely. Some really amazing people. They're going to have some of their folks at these upcoming rallies and events that I've mentioned. Um, if you want to come out to camp, information about that is on the website. And if you want to learn more about lithium, all the issues with lithium mining, and frankly, a lot of the other green technologies, I just released this book, Bright Green Lies. You can check that out. We've also done some online events, where I've spoken about the book and some of the issues. So if you're not a reader or anything like that, we are actually working on an audiobook for Bright Green Lies too. So if that's your jam, we'll be getting that out at some point. I don't know how long that process takes. We're just signed a agreement recently with the audiobook production people. I don't know how any of this works. It's all new to me. So appreciate folks tuning in. Hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon.